Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News with me, Keturah King. Now we're taking a look at where Nigeria is today, and I have a question, well, more of a statement for you. So, I don't know if you're aware, but a former governor of Yobe State, Senator Bukar Abba Ibrahim, said a couple of days ago that he would be in the Senate for life. Now, it's not a new thing to us to see African leaders want to be in that position for eternity, but what does that mean for the future of the country?
There's no problem with that.
Why?
There are US senators that have been in the US Senate for 50 years, for 40 years. They have to go to the polls every 4 years. He can make that statement, his people will decide.
Yeah, this is true.
So it's not about, he can't arrogate himself to be in the National Assembly for 40 years or for life. He hopes to be there for life.
Right.
That's really what he
So
means.
he should have added the hope.
No. I mean, he's entitled. He's entitled. It's my seat for life. Yeah. But the people who own the seat are actually the population. Yeah. If they decide to remove him or decide that he's no longer performing for them.
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing, he can actually make that statement confidently and do the work that requires to back it up.
Right.
Be so good, be so effective, that the people will be the ones clamoring and say, you cannot go.
Right.
We cannot trust somebody else with this
to do the job that you
know, so many
so
times people always think it's about age. It's about, okay, so I mean, the Not Young to Young bill is fantastic.
Yes.
You know, it's gone through the second reading. We're waiting for the houses of assemblies. But, you know, I think that it's not just about the age. It's about competence, the 3 C's of leadership: competence, capacity, and character. You know, and what this Not Young to Young bill, for example, has done is that it gives room for more people to come out, where we then hope that these young people, probably 35, 40, 45, have these 3 C's. So it's not enough to just say, listen...
Bring it down to 25, man.
Even 25, yeah. So it's not just enough,
council,
you know.
Local government, that's what's critical.
Yeah, so it's not
I believe the local government
all this focus on the presidency is a waste of time.
Yeah, so for me, it's not just enough, you know, to say, you know, it's an old man and he wants to be there for life. He's a young man, he wants to grab power. What is the common denominator? Competence, capacity, character. So a visionary leader, someone who understands institutions, someone who understands policy.
So we can expect you as president in 2019?
Someone who's ready to uphold the rule of law.
But I think the problem people have is this whole argument of, are the elections free and fair? So if he makes that kind of statement, for example, it's not really about people going out to the polls. Because I think that is where people are being worried.
Get involved. Don't stay in your social media
get involved.
and be complaining.
Still get involved.
I'll give you an example. When we used to produce a lot of reality shows. Every bloody week, every week somebody's calling me, telling me, so-and-so should win, so-and-so should be evicted. I'm like, okay, great. Did you vote? No. So why do you think you have any impact on what actually happens? Nigerians are great at talking, great at complaining, not so good at doing. And that is something that perhaps we need to look at. All the conversation in Nigeria tends to be about how to share Nigeria.
Right.
Instead of how to produce. So the conversation needs to sort of shift from sharing what is a diminishing pot to using that as a base to build a bigger.
Well, you have the youth who are becoming, well, who are incredibly innovative. You've got a lot of people who are returning back home and who are trying to do a lot for their country. So my question now is, how do we align the wisdom of the older generation with the energy and innovation of the youth?
I think, first of all, don't define innovation as just a young thing. You know, in Nigeria, it's like as if I was
how Obi always
No, but it's true because...
Reference to the older generation.
No, but it's true because every Nigerian is an entrepreneur. I grew up hearing about PP.
True.
Nobody survived on their job. They're all doing PP, which is private practice, and that's entrepreneurship.
Yes.
But you know what happens is that guys who in their 20s now think they invented entrepreneurship. And I'm like, no. That mama selling bolly is an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So the issue is, we need to translate a lot of these things, even in the innovation and the technology. It has to go from being sort of a nice payoff line to a functional solution that's actually delivering a service for the people. That's when you will see technology companies begin to make money. So you can't just be sitting there doing I want to look good and I'm on a panel, but actually you're not focusing on, it's not about work. There's a lot of vanity work. But if you're doing technology, all the big companies that are working solve something. You've got to solve a problem. And Nigeria has to move from discussing problems to solving problems. Look at the country. You've got 400 universities. How many R&D, how many patents have Nigerian universities created? That's a disaster. In 30, 40 years, all our scientists, all our engineers. So we can't blame anybody but ourselves
So
collectively.
let's talk about a platform that your company actually created, which is the Future Awards, where you honor and recognize the youth who are doing great strides, making great strides in their respective industries. Now, we have a little video of the Future Awards, so let's take a look at what one of the events looks like.
Who's left? The President-elect of Ghana, my friends in the room, Omotola, Omomi, Darren, Ini, all of you, thank you so much. Tonight is for you. And to my mother, my partner's mother, Mrs. Jidonwa, sitting right there. Mommy, thank you for your prayers, for your support and your love. When the microphones were having issues around 7, I called and said, the mics are not working. She's a pastor, so I always call her when I'm in trouble. She said, don't worry, they will work. Just go. My father, who's sitting right here, Captain Williams, thank you, sir. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. And to all of you, thank you so much. The final task of the night is to unveil the young person of the year. This young person has broken boundaries, has crossed ceilings, has attained what we believe is indeed remarkable for any young person to have achieved. To join me to do that tonight.
So we see you giving a speech there at the Future Awards and honoring the kings in the room who you helped create. Now let's talk about the fact that, you know, you put a few different presidents across the continent into power. And what I want to know is, you mentioned the Not Too Young to Run bill. I want to know what you feel that bill, how it's going to impact the youth and the nation.
I think I summed it up already, which is simply the fact that it gives an opportunity for more people who believe they are capable, who have the vision that can take Nigeria to where we want it to go, to come up. So it takes away that 10-year restriction. When you take away that 10-year restriction, you've opened your pool of potential nominees or potential candidates. You know, and that's simply what it's done. You still all have to come with your vision. You have to come with your manifesto. You have to come with your team. You know, I wish that Nigeria will get to a point where we begin to see shadow cabinets before you go into office, so we can even see the kinds of people that, you know, who will eventually, lead us in as a team. So I think that's where we're going to. And for me, a key factor is, what he had mentioned earlier, which is key to me, is about producing. A nation that doesn't produce cannot be respected anywhere in the world. A nation that doesn't produce cannot even be thought about as a global economy. It's so interesting that Norway, a producer of oil, is working to phase out using gas for their cars. So at the moment, 10% of the cars in Norway run on electricity. They plan that by the next 5 decades, that there will be 100% cars running on gas. This is a country that produces gas, but already thinking what the future will be.
But then they're a country that also invests in themselves, because they offer free education to all students, not just of Norwegian descent.
I went to Southampton, and half the population of those guys, half the population of the guys on campus in Southampton were from China. And my friend Unfon says to me, oh, these guys, they don't speak English, they don't care about English, they're here to learn. The day they finish, they drop their pens and paper and they go home. They send them here in droves to learn.
Which is interesting, because that touches on the brain drain of our society.
Yeah, so
we don't come back home.
It's the vision. It's a nation that has a vision that says that I want to have 50 million young engineers. I want to be the biggest producer of oil. I want to be the biggest designer of structures, of building, of tech. Then you create the roadmap and you send your people to go and find it. But with the we've gone through all these Africa Rising phases, all this, all those stories,
all these hashtags.
But I find that we're getting to a place where Africans actually want to come home.
Yes. And
so, this year I did a tour of Yale, Columbia, Harvard. I gave keynote speeches, and my message was simply about driving an African agenda. And I said to you, listen, you can stay in the diaspora if you want to, but my challenge to you is that anywhere you are, drive an agenda for your nation. If you're in the office of Obama, if you're working in Shell, in Total, anywhere you are in the world, just know that I'm going to try to benefit my country so that I have somewhere to come back to. That's on one hand. On the other hand, the guys are also coming back now, and the brain drain is suddenly becoming a brain gain, because they're now bringing the capacity and the competence. I have droves of them all around me, who are already here, more who are coming back. So once we're able to convince them that, listen, problems are to be solved. The countries where you are, they had problems. No, they had problems. Their people solved the problems. That's why they can be there. They use you people as well to solve the problem. They carried, still took care of slaves. What they're doing to you now is modern day slavery, because you're not saying no water, no light in Africa. So because of running tap water and working train station, you're staying there voluntarily.
Their points are valid.
No, I'm not saying it's not valid, you know, so I don't judge them.
Okay.
That's why I said that anywhere you are, just know that you have an agenda to drive for your own nation. And now I find that many of them are also coming back. So perhaps, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years, the brain drain would suddenly become a brain gain.
Obi, what are your thoughts on modern day Nigeria and where we currently are at, and looking forward to the future?
Like a small, it's like a nice, easy question. I mean, the thing is this. I mean, I agree with what Ademola is saying to some extent, as always. Well, we can never always agree totally. We're different people. I mean, I'm on the board of his Future Awards and have been supporting that for 10 years. And anybody who knows me knows fully well that my primary belief is in the ability of the Nigerian. I think the Nigerian doesn't really have any limitations, no matter where he's from.
Right.
I think the Nigerian, all these people who say Nigeria is not a country are lying to themselves. I can identify a Nigerian anywhere in the world when I see him from 100 yards.
Oh, wow.
Straight.
Okay.
Any black person anywhere in the world, I will tell you the Nigerian. They could be from Bauchi, Sokoto, they could be from Ogoja, Calabar, Onitsha, Newi, it doesn't matter. The attitude, the DNA.
The pride in our country.
It's 100%.
We walk with a certain swagger.
The Niger thing is undeniable.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing, it's a gift and a curse. But it is what it is. Now, the brain gain, some of us been coming back. I came back 30 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever. So it's not always like that. It always depends about how you are situated and what you decide to look at.
Yeah.
You could look at Nigeria and be permanently frustrated, or you could look at Nigeria and look at the permanent possibilities.
Yes, an opportunity.
I tend to look at the possibilities, the potential, the upside. There's a lot of issues. We do have issues. We do have real issues. We have real things to talk about, and we need to continue talking about them. But we cannot dwell in misery. You cannot dwell in like negativity, right? Which does not mean you have to be a naive optimist. I mean, practical, pragmatic things that actually show the people that you're working for the people. It's very, very important at this point in time. It's 2017. It's impossible to hide things anymore. Public servants in Nigeria for many, many years were able to do many, many things and disconnect from the people because there was no access.
Right.
Social media has killed all of that. So nothing stays hidden really anymore. So what I'm looking forward to is a higher level of public service delivery to the people. I think that's critical. I think that we haven't really talked about it, but Nigerian soft power continues to take the world. Our music, our films, the Nollywood, the music, theater, comedy. These things get there before anybody gets there. Before the army gets there, before the president gets there, they get there. And I think Nigeria at the federal level, and I've got to commend the present minister, by the way, because they've put a lot of structural support. It's easy to criticize government, but you also need to commend them when they're doing the right things.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things in Nigeria. We never want to commend anybody. We always want to criticize, especially if it's not from us. And for me, I think that's completely disingenuous. There are mistakes, there are positives. And we can all decide our position on those things. But for me, the most important thing is that we're having the conversation as Nigerians. Absolutely. And actually, what I find is that when I sit with Nigerians, at the end of the day, we still, after all the shouting and everything, we still have a drink. We still go home.
Absolutely.
No, do you understand? So we know ourselves.
Yeah.
We just need to sort of, for me, the frustration is seeing the opportunity and the possibility, and it's being held back by ourselves, not by anybody else.
I want us to quickly touch on the reliance, or let's talk about the economy. So where we gain our GDP from. Now, the oil boom of the 1970s basically made us forget about our strong agricultural ties and our light manufacturing. Now, what are we doing with regards to what we're producing? We're not relying on, well, thankfully, no longer relying on oil any longer, moving back towards agriculture. Are we moving in the right direction?
In terms of the economic transition plan of this government, they've woken up to the reality that Nigeria should have woken up to 20 years ago. Oil is a finite asset, natural resources finish, and if you don't use them as a lever to push, you're lying to yourself, and we've been lying to ourselves. And we've been thinking we had money when we had no money. That's just the truth. Now we found out we really didn't have any money, okay? This is reality, because vanity comes before the fall.
Yes.
So we've had the vanity.
Reserves are depleted.
But we've been very vain for a very long time. Anybody that knows Nigerians will tell you this. The question becomes that I think that one of the things that I find really interesting is that, which I commend anyways, this government been pushing this whole Made in Nigeria agenda.
Yes.
Made in Nigeria for me goes way beyond the product, okay? It's about the IP, primarily, about the human expression of Nigerians. And when you touch the human expression of Nigerians, there's nothing more important than that in this country. And that is the sort of thing that can move a country. Because then you get into whether it's brands, cosmetics, products. All our creative IP is made in Nigeria.
Yes.
All our fashion, all our food, all our drinks, all our, do you understand? There's a lot of stuff. And what you don't realize is that stuff is about a $20 billion economy inside Nigeria.
And it's not, it's infinite.
No, it will never stop because the market will never end. And in fact, we're exporting cultural goods now. But just to answer your question, I think that the government clearly is trying to find a way to diversify the economy. And the key thing is that if we could find a way as Nigerians to stop consistently waiting for government, it almost feels like in Nigerians, people are always waiting. It's like, I'm waiting for the budget. I'm like, is the budget in your office? Do you understand? It's like, yes, it affects you on the macro level. You know, if you're a major multinational, or the personal individual, I think we can just move on. We definitely need a uniting narrative, right? And I think that is one of the things that successive governments have failed to achieve. Find the common ground, bring the people together, and address the issues together, not from this side, that side, together. And I think that when you do that, we have so many brilliant Nigerians. I know so many brilliant economists, lawyers, infrastructure developments. Some of the things he's talking about. Institutions, people build institutions. Institutions don't build themselves. Absolutely. And people build countries. So we have to decide collectively that, you know what? Because the thing about it is Nigeria is worth it. Really, for the black man, Nigeria, I can't even begin to tell you how important Nigeria is. And it pains me when Nigerians talk down Nigeria.
Yes.
Because the truth of the matter is, anywhere you go in the world, you're already there. You're 1 in 4. Why would I want to reduce myself? Why? Even if we have issues, I will never allow a non-Nigerian to denigrate Nigeria to my face.
Absolutely not.
They know me. I shut them down for years. It's impossible. So yes, we have issues. Yes, they're real, but we'll deal with our issues. We don't need you to come and tell us. You understand what I'm saying? So let's deal with our issues and stop creating the opportunity for third parties to talk us down. That's, to me.
Because you know what he said now just takes me right back to where we started from. And we're talking about one narrative beyond ethnic lines, beyond language, beyond everything that separates us. I was speaking somewhere earlier in the day yesterday, and I said to them, I said, listen, government doesn't come from the sky. Government comes from amongst us. Correct. What's just happened is that Ademola steps in the spotlight, and then you begin to see, how he views Nigeria, how he had always viewed Keturah King. He had always viewed you, how he had always viewed, he had always been like that. You just didn't think about it that way. The spotlight is what then makes all of us look and see. And I'm always so upset about Nigerians tearing down Nigeria. The last time we had the floods in Lagos,
oh, goodness,
and then I had actually written an episode. The first reflex I had was, not what I posted.
Oh, right, okay.
The first reflex I had was...
Instead we're making a mockery of our situation.
It's like you're insulting people. Is anybody insulting anybody in Houston?
Well, my answer, exactly.
Hold on. So the first instincts I had was, because I saw the white guy.
Yes, the Chinese man on the
whatever it was. And I was like, I had written an epistle, taking out the government. How can we just allow people this? Or see what... Then I realized, Ademola, hang on. First of all, I understand, that there are structural issues that government can fix. But I also know that Nigerians trash Lagosians trash the road and the country bird. That's on one hand. Number two, there is so much negative pictures and images and videos about your country already. Why do you want to use your 100,000 followers to add to that again? So I paused.
Perpetuating the negative.
And I decided, you know what? I'm going to say what I want to say, but I'm going to say it from another angle. So first of all, I used 6 images of Sterling Lagos. I said, this is my Lagos. I understand we currently have an issue, but you know what? Government, we need to fix it. And then a couple of weeks after that, you had the Harvey. So I took a video from Harvey and I posted and said, listen, this is a street in America, in Texas. It's a street. You know, I understand that you cannot equate natural disaster with a disaster that was caused by negligence and failure in planning, but nonetheless, we've all been doing pray for Houston, pray for this. Lives were lost in Houston, lives were under serious attack in Lagos as well. Properties were destroyed, properties have been destroyed. Why do we always castigate and tear down our own things?
That also
Patoranking was
of just getting out. Maybe people are just frustrated. They're just looking for something.
Guys,
like people are. Yeah. So
this is what I think
there's also that as well.
There is that. But there's also a level of self-hate. We have that.
Yeah.
You know, you have this. But the thing is this: in any society, you have these things that are balanced. For me, one of the great things about Nigeria is that with all the tension, stress, and drama, Nigerians are amongst the funniest people in the world. So they find a way to convert that energy to something else and diffuse things and make it humor it. A lot of the humor is slapstick, but there is some vicious, vicious political satire out there. And what you hope is that when I was growing up in the UK, Private Eye was a magazine where politicians were being taken apart on a weekly basis. And it's like in Parliament today. You know, if you're in Parliament and Prime Minister's questions, you better be able to just take it. You know, you have to be able to take it because they're gonna come at you. And I feel like Nigerian politicians are not able to take it.
Yeah, they run away from even debates.
No, it's not even that. They can't take it. They just can't take it. And you have to be able to take it.
So we are running out of time. I do want us to move on to social media. Social media has come to represent the perfect example of the democratization of information and technology with a demonstrable capacity to migrate communication to interactive dialogue and social activation. This is greatly evidenced all around the world with regards to its use for campaigns and enlightenment by political parties. Socially, we're all witnesses to the volume of information shared on platforms such as Facebook and Instagram that Nigerians use to interact, to obtain information, to meet their social needs, to shape their behaviors, and to enrich the quality of lives. Over 16 million Nigerians are on Facebook, which is the highest number in Africa, making Nigerians the most active social media users on the continent. Now, my panel of experts and I will discuss the role of social media in shaping the youth and Nigeria. So, founder of Social Media Week Lagos, this is your platform.
I don't know about that. I mean, he's an influencer.
He's a social media influencer. You're the founder of Social Media Week Lagos.
Well, the thing is this. My conference is a little bit different because it's not... The name social media kind of is a bit of a misnomer, right? But there are 32 cities worldwide that hold the Social Media Week conference. And we started in 2012 in Lagos. We've done 6 years. And we've achieved over 2 billion mentions easily.
Wow.
And by far, we've had at least 1,400 to 200 speakers. So it's really about how technology affects life.
Yeah.
That's what Social Media Week is about.
Right.
And that's whether you're talking about agriculture, natural resource, energy, governance, security, intelligence, oversight, marketing, media, personal use of social media, Instagram, Facebook, all the stuff, the influencers. But it's really about what social media has enabled, which is really, it has enabled a whole new economy.
Yes.
A whole new digital economy, a whole new frame for marketing.
Yes.
A whole new way of selling and pushing content, a whole new level of interactivity. So in terms of that, it's a totally new world. And certainly, if you're not able to navigate that world, you're probably not able to navigate the real world. That's just the truth. Because now, because if you have a phone, you're connected. That's what has happened. Once you have a phone, you're connected. Lose your phone for 10 minutes and see what happens. It's amazing.
Been there.
Nobody remembers any phone numbers anymore.
Yes.
To remember beyond, when you're growing up, you know everybody's number.
Yeah.
You don't know any numbers. Even to know your own number sometimes can be difficult, right? Because we don't save memory in the same way we used to, right? So content now, to even watch content longer than 20, 30 minutes becomes harder for people. They're used to watching short content on their phones.
Yes.
It's true. So in Nigeria, you have maybe 150 million mobile phones, maybe 50 million smartphones. There are less than 30 million TV screens. So you'll never, I don't believe television screens will ever catch up with mobile screens in this country. So if I'm making films and content, I'm targeting mobile first. Everything in Nigeria is mobile first.
So I feel like we could talk for the next 5 hours. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for today's show. So I'd like to hear your final thoughts on the state of Nigeria at 57. What are your hopes for the country? What are your aspirations for the future? Where do you think we are and where do you think we're headed?
I think...
In 10 seconds. I heard that sigh and I got scared.
There's a lot for me, but I think that at the heart of it all is that I wish that more Nigerians will love Nigeria. I understand how, especially my generation, feels like Nigeria hasn't done a lot for them, you know. But I think the irony is that it is in this same Nigeria that you feel hasn't done a lot for you, that you saw all the problems that you have solved, that's made you into what you become. From myself to Bosun Tijani to Jason and Joke, all of us, you know, we saw problems in Nigeria. We came for it, we solved it, and that's what has made us the young leaders that we are. So I encourage all Nigerians to love Nigeria, you know, appreciate the nation, you know, and be more patriotic. Carry Nigeria right in your heart and make decisions that are in the best interest of your neighbors, of your brothers, of your friends, of the nation.
Thank you, Ademola. Labo, let's hear from you quickly, 10 seconds or less.
For me, I just look forward to a nation of people who are solution providers and not adding to the problem that currently
Absolutely. And Obi, one sentence.
Green, white, green, we represent it. That's really it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, nobody chooses who their father or mother is, and nobody chooses where they're born. But you can choose how to live.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that Nigerians have chosen to be together. Well, they haven't chosen because the politicians will say that, sorry. But Nigeria is our... For me,
It's
Nigeria,
our home.
It's not just our home, it's the only conversation.
All right, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thanks once again to my incredibly erudite and utterly inspirational guests, Obi Asika and Ademola Williams, for joining me, Keturah King, and Labo Daniel. And of course, thanks to you at home for watching. From my entire team and I, all that's left for me to say is enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye.